Good day. It is a pleasure for me to be part of this event put together by the Association for Childhood Education Practitioners with the enviable purpose of encouraging the interest of online and physical participation of teachers, parents, and guardians in the learning and development of our children. Permit me at this juncture to wish all our children a happy Children's Day 2021. Today, the 27th of May 2021, we're very happy to celebrate with you all and hope that you are managing to have a fantastic time despite the restrictions of the COVID-19 pandemic. I commend the team at Association for Childhood Education Practitioners for evolving this creative initiative to bolster the learning process of our children, especially at this crucial moment when the global reset discourse is ongoing. As the theme of this year's event suggests, investment in our children's future is not particularly limited to the financial backing of government and the private sector and what they provide for education. It needs to include quality time and education interactions with family and role models. So let us remember that mentorship and assisting within the family is very important at this time. With that small window of opportunity to build a strong foundation in a child's life, we must invest our time and resources, both in the classroom and at home, to ensure a brighter future for the child. Though it may seem like a simple enough concept, the more time that is spent on nurturing, educating, and developing our children's young minds, the more likely they are going to be successful global citizens. As parents, guardians, and tutors, now is the time to invest in our children. In 2019, you will recall the number of out-of-school children in Nigeria, according to UNICEF, stood at well over 16 million. In 2020, however, more than 10 million children are likely to have been added to that figure due to the unprecedented COVID-19 pandemic. You will agree with me that those most affected by the consequences of the pandemic were those from low-income families, thereby exposing the grievous education divide in Nigeria. It is in this regard that I commend the Nigerian government for putting in place measures to mitigate this divide through curbing the spread of the virus and ensuring that schools were open to physical learning so as to ensure that no child is left behind. And we also commend all those that put online learning as well as radio and television and all the other media which were applied to learning during the time that the lockdown was in place. As you may well be aware, the Ajike People Support Center, a charity initiative that I founded, is at the forefront of advocacies on child education through encouraging the enrollment of children in school and providing support to pupils to complement the efforts of government in providing qualitative education for the children, among our other core concerns. In commemoration of the 2021 Children's Day, however, I urge parents and guardians present to put to good use the opportunities this platform presents to improve on the education and care of their children and wards. I equally enjoin government, private sector, and public-spirited individuals to support this lofty initiative so as to create a better future for the children. It is my sincere belief that the outcome of what is started here today will stand as an unequivocal agreement amongst key stakeholders to work together in providing quality, holistic care and education to our children today and in the future. So that is why I wish you fruitful deliberation today in all the activities that will go on online for this period that this has been put together. I'm sure there will be very, very lofty ideas brought forward due to the experts and all the people that will be speaking. I enjoin everybody to listen carefully and try and imbibe as much as they can from this online platform, and to do, all the things that are being suggested in order to make sure that our children enjoy better when it comes to education. I wish you all fruitful deliberation, and once again, Happy Children's Day 2021.
So you are welcome, Mr. Zahn.
Excellencies, the first ladies of Kwara State and Lagos State, the founder of UBE, Dr. Fayo, our local and international partners, our elder scholars, our Honorable Commissioner of Education, teachers, and dear pupils, you're welcome to the ACEP program for Children's Day 2021-27 May. Welcome, children. Today is your day. Today you all are highly recognized. We recognize the role that education plays in our lives daily, and we recognize the role of the Babajide Sanwo-Olu government in education presently. You know, like our mommy, Adia Olainoshudi has told us that education is being transformed. Education is no longer going to be the same way it has always been. It is being transformed from the formal to the high technical. But as you can see that Lagos State government is ensuring that new children in the public schools are also carried along. That's why we have the eZ-Xpo program. The eZ-Xpo program, since it commenced, has so many benefits, including free feeding for the children, free textbooks, and we'll also look at the welfare of teachers have also not been put behind. Children, tomorrow, you are tomorrow's leaders, and we all are gathered here to ensure that we work together to make sure that your tomorrow is brighter. We encourage you to study hard to ensure that you turn out to be the best tomorrow. Our daddy here knew me when I just got my job. He was still in service then, and when he was telling me of former Education Secretary Alaja, I reminded him that, oh, that was when I recognized him and I knew him. So you can see tomorrow, you all who are sitting down here will also be on the high table addressing tomorrow's children. So I encourage you to be good leaders and good emulators of the good in our society. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think if the executive is here, wouldn't have done more than what you have done. So it is a round of applause for him again. So it is well with you. Thank you very much.
I'm ready. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Put the microphone under.
I want all to listen to all these keynote addresses.
Can you hear me?
A good witnessing before go into the business of the day, which will be given by our guest speakers.
Yes, I can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes.
So I can go ahead.
Yes,
Okay. Well, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen,
as they say in Nigeria, I stand on existing protocol, but not without acknowledging ACEP and Haji Shodi for this initiative, and also congratulating my dear children on today's ceremonies. Let me, in a few minutes, go down to what you call basic education, because we're dealing with early childhood. And I'm going to emphasize what is basic about basic education. And I'm going to do so in answering 5 questions. Question number 1, what is education? Ladies and gentlemen, education is not to be equated with mere schooling. It is a process that goes on through one's life, and it's a process of awakening and nurturing our potentials, whatever abilities that are innate with us and the ones we need to survive. We try to awaken this in the young person and nurture it throughout life. And as I was saying, it is not to be confused with mere schooling, because it passes through 4 interrelated routes, education. There is incidental education. As people are trying to set up the technical facilities for this meeting, they've learned a few lessons through the incident. There is informal education. You're just going through life and you're acquiring experience. And there is a non-formal education pattern when you organize people, but outside the school system with the syllabuses and the examinations and so forth. And then there is the formalized, I repeat, formalized, that is, education is already there, but you now make it more formal, more regulated. So it doesn't have to be in school. You may even be out of school, but as long as there's a continuous process of awakening your potentials and nurturing these potentials, you are being educated. Question number 2, when does education begin? Ladies and gentlemen, it's certainly not the day you register in school. It's even not at birth. It is at conception. I repeat, it is not even at birth that education begins. It's in fact at conception, meaning that when that magic happens, nobody's even there to witness. The conditions that will make it possible for the awakening of potentials are already there in the home, in the health of the woman, the mother, and so on. Number 3, what then is this basic education? In Nigeria, we make the mistake of saying this education, basic education is primary plus junior secondary. Ladies and gentlemen, this is fake. What was decided in 1990 by the international community was that process that brings you to a level where you have learned how to learn. When that was decided upon, it was then said that individual countries will determine the formal aspect, the formal dimension of this bringing people to a level where they've learned how to learn. And it was decided by African ministers that if you make it universal primary, you will not be solving the problem, because the children will be only 11, 12 years old. You cannot send them into the world. And 2, the world has become so complex that the skills they need for life, for living in a life of further learning, are more complex. So let's make it primary plus junior secondary. It so happens that in the Anglophone countries of West Africa, where we have WAEC, basic primary secondary is 6+3. But ladies and gentlemen, when you go over to Togo and Niger, it is 6+4. And when you go beyond Cameroon to East and Southern Africa, it is 6+2. So it does not matter the number of years, but what you put into the years. So, but in fact, what we put into the years must be solid, because to live in life is to continue learning. So we bring children to a level where they've acquired sustainable skills, not the skills they learn today and forget tomorrow, for a life that says never stop learning, never stop learning. And question 4, what are the basics of this basic education? Ladies and gentlemen, they are not the 15 subjects on the curriculum by NLDC. There are, according to world standard, limited to 4 basic areas. Area number 1 is literacy. I will not define too much, but your ability to pursue a life in which you can read and understand what you're reading, and which you can communicate your thoughts through writing. It doesn't matter the language, it means the language of your immediate environment. And you can go on and on. Area number 2 is numeracy. You cannot go through the world today without counting, without basic arithmetic skills, adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. You cannot go through the world without counting 1, 2, 3. And sometimes, in most cases, people just put drawings here and there, and you are supposed to use drawings to know to move forward or to move backward or to go upwards or to go around. That is graphicacy. It's also part of this. And sometimes thoughts of people are represented by mere symbols. This is all part of numeracy. Then life skills, area number 3, meaning you are in life and you have to understand life and you have to adjust. So whatever you do to foster interpersonal relationship with other people through communication and working together, whatever you can do to understand your environment and adjust to it. Environment includes the physical environment and the social one. And whatever vocational skills you can acquire so that you can go through life. And this day and age, you cannot exclude in life skills ICT fluency. Notice I have not said computer literacy, because ICT goes beyond computer, as we can see. It's a way of exploring whatever is in the cloud to make life better and activities faster, and it's moving by the day. It now rules the world. So there is no way you can say life skills without bringing in ICT competence, ICT versatility, meaning using it for different purposes, as people are already doing. And finally, and above everything else, the 4th area, lifelong learning skills. Ladies and gentlemen, if you say what is the meaning of geography and the teacher says it to you, he has not taught you anything. But if the teacher says, let's take our dictionary and look at G and GE and GO and GG until we discover geography, we have learned something, because next time when they say history, we know how to go about it. So learning to learn skills is a question of getting people to know how to search for knowledge, how to develop inquisitiveness in them, how to raise questions. When somebody says this is that, you can also say, what if I do it this way? And if you do this, you'll be able to follow through a life where, especially today's life, where creative thinking is the order of the day. And question number 5, perhaps the most important one. If we accept that education goes beyond schooling, but it includes schooling, if we accept that education begins from the day you are born, and that the home is in fact your first school, and the condition of the home, especially that of the mother, also conditions the progress you have both in school and out of school learning. And that for you to lay a solid foundation for this, beginning from the early years, you promote literacy, numeracy, life skills, and most important, life learning skills. But then how, since we are professionals, how do we inculcate, build on all these skills, especially in early childhood? I'm proposing from experience 8 major principles. One is, you can note, non-restrictive learning environment. In other words, when we say the classroom is the only place we are being restrictive, in life we learn both in and out of school. So in early life, childhood and basic education level, let's expose the child for both in class, to both in class and out of class. We mean life learning experiences. 2, and a fully integrated curriculum. What do I mean by that? You may say you are reading the history of Ajasa of Lagos, but in the process, you are reading, you are acquiring language, you are discussing with people, you are even doing calculations, you are even using your phone and computers. So what I'm saying here is that there is no clear-cut distinction between, say, mathematics and language and science and social science. They are all interrelated. And in early childhood, we try to build, to take all this together. And what is probably more important is that children come to us with all sorts of background variables, background conditions. And as teachers in early childhood trying to build a life of learning, we not say this one cannot learn, this one is too troublesome, this one is too talkative, this one is too shy. We go down to the level of each child and try to bring that child up from that level by solving, by addressing the problems they may be facing. This child could be the last child in the family, spoiled, or the only boy in the family, also spoiled, or from homes where there are no books and no language and no, the mother is not available, and so certain things have not been done. So each child comes to you with some handicap. Not all of them are visible. And for us to help each child to learn, we must offer psychosocial support to each child. And probably still very important, most of us teachers think our work is telling. It is not telling, it is guiding. You stand there, Lagos is the commercial capital of Nigeria, you are telling. But if you were to lead your children to compare Lagos with some other far off places, and they discover the differences, before you talk commercial, you'll be guiding them. And what this means is that you minimize frontal teaching. Frontal teaching is when you sit by the high table and deliver a lecture through the microphone. But if you want to lay a solid foundation, remember when you are talking from the high table, many are sleeping, many are doing other things. But teaching as guiding, meaning work is going on and you're working with the children, and this work will be both mental and physical. And when you do this, you are helping children grow. And because you're not doing frontal teaching, you minimize teacher talk and you maximize student participation. And their participation could be all sorts of interaction, and not just one way between teacher and people, but among people, between people and people, between teacher and people, and so on, multi-directional. And it will be interactive, meaning no one is wrong if each person learns from the other. But what we should emphasize is number 7, and that is examinations should die. And for examinations to die, we must have assessment. Examination says he has failed, he has passed. And when you fail, you are forgotten. So we are not guiding you any further. But assessment means this is the performance, but the performance is determined by conditions A, B, C. And for us to erase that performance, let's take care of those prevailing conditions. That is assessment, meaning that a fault for non-performance may not come from the child. It may come from the home, it may come from the teacher, it may come from the environment, it may come from what you're trying to learn. And above all, whatever we're doing, let's not forget that the home
is the first school, and education in school, early childhood should also collaborate with the home as much as possible. In more developed societies, you develop the home so that you get develop the children. And I think Nigeria should pay attention to that. And my question number 6, I'm rounding up. If we follow up this way, what do we stand to gain? What we first to gain first is that for you, the teacher, the task becomes joyful, because when you see results, you are happy. Every teacher who believes in examinations gets discouraged, because you mean in spite of everything I've been saying to these people, see what they are writing. But where teaching is not telling, not mere telling, but systematic guiding, you find that in the end you rejoice. So these children have improved. Because of that also, you are not holding a cane. You are not standing up there and dictating notes. Learning itself becomes delightful. And because it is joy and it's delightful, no child is pushed aside, meaning you go and sit there, you don't know anything. And no child is left behind, meaning you are, the colleagues are in that level, he's in that level. And remember, the world standard today, the world dictum is no child is left behind. But I've added no child is also pushed aside, because sometimes leaving behind begins with pushing aside. I will conclude by saying that we learn to live and we live to learn. So let's lay a solid foundation. An early childhood through a solid foundation for lifelong learning, as I just said, is the key. And this is what I've been saying, laying this solid foundation in early childhood, going the way I have suggested, is in fact the surest way of investing in the future, in our future, by genuinely investing in our children. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Hear me? Can you hear me, please? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let me say congratulations to the organizers of today's program. Happy Children's Day to our children, our wonderful children. On that note, Her Excellency, I wish to acknowledge your presence, all distinguished guests, our chairman for ACEP. Good day to everybody. I want to acknowledge the important role played by Elijah Oshodi in putting this program together. Having said that, I will just go on to the topic of my own lecture. Coping with the challenges of successful parenting in the 21st century. The child is said to be the father of man. I hope we all agree with that. This is supposed to be a paradox. And this actually refers to the theme of today's events. That is, investing in our future means investing in our children. So that paradox, the child is the father of man, simply means that today's child is the father of tomorrow. So the children of today, we are looking up to them to become, say, the future leaders. But in this paradox, they are the future fathers, because they become fathers and mothers and start raising children tomorrow. So the successful parents be emphasized, as life is said to be from cradle to grave. And this also a point out the challenges expected along the journey through life. When we say that life is a struggle from cradle to grave, so the children we are tutoring, they have started with life. They have been assisted, or they are supposed to be assisted. First and foremost in the homes by the parents. They are supposed to be the first environment of the child. Then the second agent of socialization, that is the school. So we say that in the study of child psychology, life begins from conception. And so when we look at the study of psychology, which means the scientific study of human behavior. We look at the child in the society, right from conception. So that's when life begins. If I may give you a joke, at one time, even with my students in the university, then I ask, okay, when is the start of life? Some will tell you when the child is born. It's when they see the child. But that's not the beginning of life. As soon as conception takes place, life begins. And so, educational psychology talks about the child growing from one stage to the other, even in the womb, from conception. And when the child is born, then we begin to look at development of the child. So we look at every factor that affects the child's growth and development, right from conception. We talk about the heredity of the child. And heredity refers to the transference of genetic traits, hereditary traits, from parents to the offspring. Again, this happens at conception. So the parents have no say about this, nor the child. So whatever the child turns out to be in future, we should know that it is not the business of that child, it is not the fault, nor his responsibility. But as a result of genetic traits, he or she has inherited from the parents. So apart from the heredity, we talk about the environment of the child affecting the growth and development. And simply put, what do we mean by environment? The environment is every other factor which affects the growth and development of the child from conception till adulthood, even to death. So such environment is not limited to the four walls of the classroom, as people usually say. The environment of the child begins even right from conception in the womb. That is the nature of the woman who's carrying the baby in the womb. And we also talk about factors like love. People will say that, how can you love a child that you have not seen? But there's a way by which we radiate love, even to the unborn child in the womb. And this is the responsibility of both parents. In educational psychology, we say that, the environment of the child affects whatever the child is going to turn out to be. So the kind of love, the warmth in the home is the first environment. And then when the child moves to the school, that's the second agent of socialization and another environment of the child. The kind of children that the child identifies with, even at home, the siblings, and in the school environments, all other categories of children, the kind of teachers, the books used, whatever the child is taught, these are all parts of the environment. And these two factors are actually responsible for the growth and development of children, responsible for where they are similar and when they are different. We talk about nature and nurture. This is when we are referring to heredity and environment. So when we look at the concept of education, because the topic is coping with the challenges of successful parenting in the 21st century, the study of the child itself comes up the educational psychology. And educational steps responsible. And the first aspect is the growth and development, which I've been talking about. Then the second aspect is human learning. How does the child learn when the child begins schooling? Then the third aspect is the measurement and evaluation, or what some people refer to as tests and measurements. The tests and measurements, human learning, will come up under education. What is education itself? We say it's the process of providing information to an inexperienced person to help him or her develop physically, mentally, socially, emotionally, spiritually, politically, and economically. In other words, education can also be referred to as the process through which the individuals are made functional members of their society. It is a process, and we should always emphasize that. Gone were the days when people say that education, was the ability to read and write. No, we have gone past that. So it's the process by which facilities are trained, the process by which people acquire knowledge, and that's what we are doing for children in the school. And the emphasis nowadays, and this is where ACEP comes in, is catching them young. We talk about early childhood education because at a specific age. Right now, we say early childhood education starts from about age 2. They go to learn, to socialize. It's not meant for purely educational purposes, reading and writing, for children at that early age. These are part of the challenges that some parents are having. Some will send their children to school for early childhood education, and they'll be saying that the school is not doing enough because their children cannot count 1 to 200, cannot write letters, or they compare one school to the other, but that's not the job. It's the responsibility of teachers at that level. The children are meant to go to school. Even we say that so play method, that's what we use to teach them at that stage. They go out to socialize, and through socializing, they are learning. In childhood education, playway method, they go there, they sing, they dance, they do some counting through songs. That's the element of learning at that stage. And so we say to educate means to train the mind, the character, and the abilities of individuals. Thus, education is a fundamental human right that should be availed to all citizens, irrespective of age, sex, and nationality. The greatest favor that one can do to himself or to herself is to get education, and to others is to give them education. That's where investing in their future comes in. According to a Chinese proverb, education is the best legacy to give a child, because giving your child a skill is better than giving him 1,000 pieces of gold. I love that quotation, from the Chinese proverb, because in Nigeria, some people with more emphasis on acquiring wealth, and that's why they are not available for these children. You see some parents waking up and leaving children at home by 4 o'clock, 5 a.m. They have gone to their place of work, leaving these children under the care of house helps who are not even trained themselves, who do not have the education required. And so we emphasize that it is important, just as that Chinese proverb says, give your child a skill. It's better than giving him 1,000 pieces of gold. So the education of the child starts from the home, as I've said earlier on, with the first agent of socialization being the parents. And so the parents serve as the first teacher of the child. Hence, it is said that charity begins at home. Now, the demands of successful parenting in the 21st century. I will look at the charts I put in my write-up and go through it very briefly. There are 4 parenting styles that affect children when they are growing, especially at the childhood stage, early childhood stage. So the parenting style that is provided by the child is bound to have some effects. So we look at the parenting styles, the description, and the effects on children. The first one is authoritarian. Authoritarian parenting style is characterized by rigidity and strict rules. And the results or the outcome, it can lead to depression in children. When a child lives under rigid control, strict rules, he cannot move or do anything by his own creativity or his own idea. Then the child, eventually, when he sees the other children around him or her, will become depressed because he's not allowed to make use of his or her initiative. Then the second parenting style is permissive. Permissive style is characterized by indulgence and no limit setting. Such a parent indulges the child, no limit setting. The child can do whatever he wants. In other words, the child can jump from table to the floor. Once the child says, "Oh, mommy, I want to do this." "Oh, go on do it." "I want to go out with my friend." "Oh, you can go ahead." "I want to do that." "Oh, you are free, go ahead." That is being permissive. And this can lead to poor impulse control. The child doesn't have any limits, so no control. He's free to do whatever he wants to do. And the third parenting style is indifference. This is characterized by neglect and lack of involvement. There's a slight difference between permissiveness and indifference. When a parent is being indifferent, he doesn't really mind whether the child goes out or he stays home, whether the child is learning, is not learning, whether the child is playing with the toys or he's not even concerned about anything. It's indifferent about it. Doesn't really matter. This is not the best for our children. And so if we want to cope with the challenges of the 21st century, parents have to be alive to their responsibilities. We should be involved in the care of these children. Whatever they do, we should have to be involved. We have to be involved. Get yourself involved. And parents have to be informed about it. They did the enlightenment so that they will know their responsibility and be up and doing. to make sure that the children under their care, given them by God, they're not shortchanged. I used to tell parents that you are the caregiver because you have asked for these children. So you have to be alive to your responsibility. And the fourth parenting style is reciprocal. Reciprocal parenting style refers to or is characterized by shared decision making. Shared decision making, even as young as they are in early childhood stage, you're able to let them talk to you as parents, show interest in their day-to-day activities. They have been sent to play groups to go and play. Yeah, when they come back, what exactly happened today? So it should be characterized by shared decision making, and the results, the sense of self-reliance. The child grows up to have sense to become self-reliant. He can take some initiatives. He's allowed to grow and to grow well. In general, it is said that experimental studies have indicated that the most effective parenting style involves consistency and reward for good behavior and punishments for undesirable behavior, both of which should occur when within the context of a warm and loving environment. If the child grows up to know love, then the child will show love to other people. It's the environment. But if the child sees the management of the parents as being undesirable, as being a kind of punishment, the child will develop to be strict and unloving to everybody around him or her because he believes that's what is expected of him. And so we look at, after considering the different parenting styles, the stages in growth and development. Our emphasis today is really on early childhood education, but there are some stages in educational psychology that the children have to go through before they become adults. And this calls for some challenges for parents who are supposed to bring them up, to make them become responsible adults in future. The first stage is the neonate period, from birth to 2 weeks, when the child is completely dependent on the caregiver or the parents or the mother. Then infancy period, that's from 2 weeks to age 1, when the child is still learning to do things by looking at the parent or the caregiver. He still needs help, even at that stage. Then the early childhood stage, from that age 1 to 3, 4. At this stage, we encourage parents to allow their children to move out. But at that stage, the child begins to refuse being babied. They come to that stage by age 2. He wants to do things himself or herself. And the child that is allowed to grow, to learn to do things himself, becomes self-reliant. So there is need for children to go from their home to the school for early childhood education, to go and play. We encourage the use of play method, which I've talked about. After the early childhood stage is the later childhood, which is the primary school education. And after that, the child grows into adolescence, which is a problematic area. That's why I mentioned that. So I highlighted this in my paper. Because we said that when the foundation is badly laid, it's poor, what can the righteous do? In early childhood education, that's where we provide the foundation for the future development of the child. And so the parents have a lot of work to do. Now, I cannot really go into detail. After adolescence, the next stage is the adulthood. But adolescent stage gives rise to a lot of problems. Parents will start wondering why the child is going haywire at that stage. It's what has happened, what we have planted into the child in the early childhood stage. And that's why we are advocating that, okay, to cope with the challenges of parenting, successful parenting in the 21st century, parents should learn to do it right with their children. And the problem areas are highlighted that we need to cope with. Number 1 is the education of the child. The education should start, we have said, it's not just reading and writing. It's imparting knowledge, skills, and acquisition, making use of their initiative. From that age, we can encourage children to maximize their potentials. By the time the child grows into adolescence, that is getting to late upper primary school, the child has a lot of things to cope with. And the child that has been well brought up in the primary school, in the early childhood training, develops the ability to cope successfully by the time you get to adolescent stage. And that, the challenges of the 21st century. I will just rush through that. The education for all is being advocated, and it comes up under the 8 Millennium Development Goals. But then if you look at Nigeria, as well as some nations still developing, many cannot provide free education for their children. Especially in the early childhood education program, you see many parents complaining about the money to be paid. But what I tell people is that, well, if you say education is expensive, people say try ignorance. What your child is bound to gain, if well developed, if you make the investments in our child and the future generation. So we are investing in our future. And so that calls for parents to work hand in hand, and appealing to government also to put in more funding into our educational system, right from the early childhood education, so that our children will be well developed and provided around the education to be up in life as well. Then another challenge is social life. You can see the problem now in our society. In fact, the whole world, you say it's a global village. Social networking, internet usage. Children from that early childhood program at that level, many of them have started making use of the internet, not only the computer. A child some months, 6 months, 1 year now, will be struggling to get the telephone, mobile phone from their parents, and they start to puncture, to press the button. So that has started at that level, but then parents should monitor the activities of the children, even right from that stage, from age 2 to age 3. The friends they are moving with when they go to school, they have started going to play. And I'm going to round up on that note. I said parents should be very close to them and monitor their movements. Talking about the social life and our society more corrupt nowadays. Do you know that children are being abused even when they're not in school? I've handled so many cases where children have been abused. And when they get home trying to tell parents, the parents say, keep quiet, shut up. What do you know about that? And that's the story I will tell you before I round up. I was invited to a school, to handle their problems, social problems, nursery school. By the time I finished talking to the parents, I don't have time to go into detail. Some mothers started crying. And I tried to find out what's the cause of their being upset. And the woman said, she never knew that she should listen to her daughter at age 3 in the nursery school. The girl came home one day and was saying, Mommy, look at my clitoris. And she was pointing to her private parts, private organ, vagina. And the mother said, shut up. What do you know about that? What are you saying? Will you keep quiet? He said, so the girl knows the clitoris. Mommy, she was looking at me and said, are you sure my daughter? I said, of course, somebody must have been, fiddly with her clitoris. That's her private parts. And they start from that age, even from the primary school, abusing the girls. So parents, please be alive to your responsibility. You develop some social skills in your children, be close to them, listen to them that they give to us. Parents, listen to your children, give them sound education. So you should be the first parents, the first teacher of your children, and their friends, not only teacher, be friends to your children. Get to know them and find out who they relate with and what they do in the school every day. God will bless all our children, God will bless our parents, and make us responsible parents, even as we nurture these children. Thank you very much for listening. Happy celebration. Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon, honorable guests, I'll say, because everybody is an honorable. Thank you so much for having me. I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me, please? Hello? Can you hear me, please? Hello, can you hear me? Yes. Oh, great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's good to be in your midst today. I thank Mrs. Soshodi especially for the invitation. She kept on at me for quite a while. Thank you very much. It's a great privilege to be here and to be a guest speaker alongside with such celebrated people as part of Obaya. It's nice to hear you speak, sir. I listened to what you had to say and I was greatly blessed. So today we're going to be talking about quality early childhood development and the opportunities. But before we go into that, can we just wish our children a happy Children's Day? Because really, I mean, what we're doing today is about the children. It's to ensure that the children get a good head start in life. And that's why we have this program, so that we can enlighten ourselves and ensure that we prepare a good foundation for our children. And, you know, as I say, you know, from time to time, what we do for our children, we in reality actually do for ourselves, because at the end of the day, they are the ones that are going to be at the helm of affairs way down the line, and we will be old and dependent on them, just as they had been dependent on us for some time. So happy Children's Day. But who is a child? Who is a child? The United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child defines a child as a human being below the age of 18 years. Or maybe we can put it differently, that a child between the period of infancy when the child is born, and I listened to Professor, I forgot her name now, right? And she said something about life starting even from conception, which is so true. So we're talking about a person between the developmental period of infancy, or possibly when the child was conceived, because at that point in time, the child had come into existence. And if the mother, for instance, does not prepare an enabling environment, when the child is born, the child is going to have some issues. It could be that of drugs, or if the mother is into drugs, or if the mother has HIV or whatever, the child will be born with all of those things. And so, in fact, childhood starts from period of conception right on to puberty. Now, the UNESCO defines early childhood care and education, which is what we're talking about, the quality of early childhood development. The UNESCO says early childhood care and education is more than the preparation for primary school, because most of us just feel that, well, I mean, it's just to get them ready for primary school and possibly, I mean, as they go on in life. But it aims, early childhood development, it aims at the holistic development of a child's social, emotional, cognitive, and physical needs in order to build a solid and broad foundation for lifelong learning and well-being. And so when we're talking of early childhood development, we're talking about actually projecting into the future. And so if we want to know what our world will be like, or Nigeria will be like in 2040, for instance, we need to look at, you know, the development of the children, or the kind of provision that's being made for their childhood development even now. So it has to do with nurture, it has to do with caring, it has to be capable and responsible, you know, for them to become capable and responsible future citizens. Now, we know that the first 3 years of life are one of very rapid growth and development, because that's the time when even those things, well, apart from the physical development that we see, that is, the child gets bigger. I mean, when the child is born, you know, for the first 2 weeks, the child will lose a lot of weight, right? But then after that, the development starts, physical development. But once those physical development that we can see are going on, also development of the brain starts, you know, happening. So the brain itself creates complex neutral pathways at a very, very high speed. And that is why, you know, after a while, the child is able to walk, the child is able to say, ma, ma, the child is able to say, da, da, and so on and so forth. And at such periods, the opportunities for development, the environment of the child is very, very crucial. And so the early experiences that the child has, I will say within the home, which is the first port of entry of the child, within the home, are very, very crucial to how the child will turn out. Whether the child will be good, whether the child will be bad, whether the child will be slow, because all of this will lay the foundation for a child's future survival, future health, future growth, and future well-being. And what are these things that we must look out for that early childhood development? We have to look out for the nutrition. The child has to be fed nutritious food, good for the child. I mean, at birth, of course, breastfeeding is advocated and all of that, because that is the best food for the child at that point. But of course, if that food will not satisfy the child, then, I mean, the mother is advised to supplement with some other things. But we're advised that breast milk is the best for the child or for a baby. And of course, as the child starts growing, there are certain things that the child must continue to eat and feed on so that physically the body will develop as expected. The brain also, the brain cells will also be fed adequately. And so that's important. But then, what about the environment, as was earlier mentioned? Parents' behavior is very, very crucial. Does the parent even converse with the child? Remember that it's only in human beings that we have children staying with parents, you know, up to age 18. Other animals, you know, as soon as they have their children, some of them just, I mean, maybe after a couple of weeks, the animals become independent of their parents. But because human beings need a lot of nurture, they are left with their parents for up to 18 years. And so the models for these children will be their parents. The parents will be the models for these children, modeling what, I mean, they should expect. And of course, the children will be learning. So, I mean, of course, we know that they do have an absorbent mind very early on, and they just mop up everything. They believe everything that the parents are doing are just the best for them. And so they mop it up. So it is very important that parents' behavior are positive such that will gear the child in the right direction. But of course, after that, I mean, parenting style, which had been mentioned earlier on, as different from the parents' behavior. Parenting style could be authoritarian or authoritative, or it could be permissive, and so on and so forth. That is also very crucial. So, which means that the child learning and development of the child is not solely dependent on the teacher. It's not. You know, it is the whole environment that will help in these early years, you know, early years of development for the child. So there's the social and cultural practices, and of course the environment. That is very, very important. So we know that the children, they grow up to become adults in the society. And so we must ensure that we nurture them in such a way that they'll become useful adults, adults that can learn in the society, adults that can run the affairs of this nation. Because remember, if we put in just like the computer, the computer language that says, if you put in garbage into them, then all you're going to get coming out will be garbage as well. So the formative years are very, very critical. And any society that does not ensure quality in early childhood development is setting up itself for failure. But in the past couple of years, maybe about 20 years, I'll say, the world has continued to evolve, and we find that, well, children's lives have improved. I'm talking worldwide now. they have improved in recent decades. But then there are some particular issues that are rearing their heads that they're about to sort of negate even this progress that has been made in terms of early childhood development of the children. Persistent inequities and lack of opportunities presently endanger the futures of millions of children in Nigeria and around the world. We understand that about 43% of children, which is roughly put at about 249 million children now, that are under 5 years of age in low and middle income countries, are at risk of poor development due to extreme poverty. And unfortunately, we've now been told that Nigeria is the poverty capital of the world. So what do we do? Millions more are deprived of the caring and nurturing environment that they need to thrive. So quality early childhood development is being threatened. It is being threatened in our world today. And if we domesticate it, in Nigeria, it is being threatened. Even though international organizations like UNICEF, they've done quite a lot to ensure, that there is a positive pathway and that children, or that the society itself and governments recognize the importance of early intervention, in childhood development. Not too much is being done. And we have a lot of challenges, I would say. Even though, their own optimal developmental potential are set out in their own vision, which they keep, telling all nations, because the UNICEF is, involved in all nations. And of course, Nigeria is one of those nations. And their own thrust is that every child must survive. So mortality, should reduce. A lot of interventions have come, to ensure that that happens, but they should not just survive. They should thrive. Children should thrive. And the only way they can thrive is that all the necessary, the platform has to be set to ensure the environment has to be right. The parents have to do the right thing. Educationally, it has to be right, and the environment itself, the society has to be right. Remember, the child is brought up by the entire society. Even if the society, the entire village, as we normally put it, does not have direct contact to the child, but really they do, because the child can see, even though you're not talking to the child can see that car, for instance, has driven poorly. The child can hear that person is talking down, derogatory, on some other person. And so the entire village has an impact, the entire community has an impact on the quality of early childhood development. So UNICEF also says part of their vision is that every child should learn, which means that every child, should learn. But learning, I don't want to restrict it to schooling, but that is also important. Schooling is also important. And so within the communities, the mothers, especially within low-income communities and possibly the IDPs and all of those ones, they need to be sensitized as to what constitutes learning. Yes, there's a formal part, but what about the informal part? What is the role of the mother in ensuring that the child learns? Because, for instance, in a home where there's even no communication, you have a 2-year-old in the house, you don't even talk to the child. You assume that that child cannot understand you or something. You don't talk, you don't communicate that, bring this, what's your name? Put up your hand, put it down, whatever. All of those things go to stimulate the senses within the child. And that is also part of education. The third one is that every child must be protected from violence and exploitation, and that every child, the fourth will be every child must live in a clean and safe environment. And of course, that every child must have an equitable chance in life. Now, we know that for us in Nigeria, that may not be so true, and that there's so much that we need to do. The data about out-of-school children in Nigeria is so staggering. It's so staggering. I mean, we're told that out of every 5 children that are out of school in the world, 1 of them is in Nigeria. So it's a very sorry state. And of course, when they're talking of out-of-school children, they're probably not even talking about those in early years. Those ones are not even being counted. There is no adequate provision for children that are under, that should be in preschool, in nursery school, in Nigeria, because I know I know that the age of school starts at age 6, but then what happens to the early years? There are a few public early year schools, but they are so few. They're so few, and not enough, especially to serve the low income, of our community. And so something needs to be done in that area. Evidence has shown, of course, that the brain building process is fueled, as I said earlier on, by adequate nutrition. What kind of nutrition are our children enjoying? With the level of poverty, I wonder, what nutrition is available to our children, that's going to create a problem, because the development of the brain will be affected and the future of the nation will be affected, projected to, let's say 2030, 2040. And that is a problem, and that's something that we need to, start considering. Our children, are they being protected from violence? Apart from the violence, insecurity state of our nation, the kind of possibly movies, the kind of music that they listen to engenders violence. And some of us, we now use the computer or the social media or the computer, I'll say, as a babysitter. So which means that, a lot of things that the children should not even be exposed to, the child will be exposed to it. Environmental toxins, of course, there's pollution. And I don't know what is being done about that, but pollution is also another irritant that will affect childhood development. And so that quality that we desire may not be easily attained. Then responsive stimulation, which is a core element of, nurturing care, which the child needs, is also something that, is not readily available. And so, I'm surprised. I came across something that was a report that was done by UNICEF 2017, and it was presented to the to the Minister of Health. That's 2017, that's quite a while, but I'm sure that things have deteriorated even further. And that report said that Nigerian children are at risk of underdevelopment, both physically and mentally, because critical national policies that will provide adequate foundation for their growth are not in place. But then I don't even see, some of the things that are mentioned as being the critical policies, I don't really see them happening. I think part of their own recommendation is that the pre-primary education, of which most of the ones that are available are private ones, but now talking about public pre-primary education should be for at least 2 years. The one we have presently is only for 1 year. That is, I'm talking about the public schools now. Another recommendation is about, maternity leave. It's claimed that, they have proposed that maternity leave should be for 6 months. Paid maternity leave, that is, should be for 6 months. But then how easy is that? However, maybe the people that we're even talking about now, the majority of the people whose children may not be able to access quality, early childhood development, may actually not require maternity leave. If we put that in quotes, because they're probably self-employed, traders and things like that. And so they're able to be with their children much longer than people that are that work in offices and things like that. And so they are proposing that UNICEF is proposing that maternity leave should be for 6 months. And they're also proposing that there should be paternity leave. I think that's funny, anyway, in Nigeria, that there should be paternity leave as well. 4 weeks paternity leave. We don't have that. Presently, the maternity leave that is enjoyed is 3 months. I'll say that these recommendations are difficult to implement in Nigeria. And I don't see how that can work. And so we need to think of other ways in which that an awareness can be created within the populace as to giving our children quality, free, childhood, development opportunities. Now, whose responsibility is it? That is providing quality childhood developmental opportunities. Whose responsibility? Of course, from what I've said so far, we know that the parents, it's primarily the responsibility of the parents and the home. And of course, the environment in which that child will grow up, is growing up. But then the school also has a responsibility. The school has a responsibility. The early years environment, that is the nursery or preschool, must have rich curriculum, impactful activities, and qualified and experienced teachers. So that's also critical. Thirdly, of course, government has an overwhelming opportunity. I understand my time is up. Government has has responsibility of creating awareness, of encouraging people and ensuring the facilities that is required, are provided, especially in early childhood, education. And again, the entire society is also responsible, because really the entire society, the whole village, looks after a child. I'll just quickly skip this and then go on to well, we know that, so all we're saying is that, for quality early childhood development, the long-term benefits will be improvement in the cognitive skills of the child, the social emotional skills that the child would have acquired with the interaction between home, school, and the environment. And of course, when the child grows up, the child will be a useful member of society, and that is key. So we know that early childhood education is the key to the betterment of society. That's Maria Montessori. And Nelson Mandela also said, education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. But by education, we're not necessarily talking about schooling. Education is all encompassing. The society is also key. And so any society that wishes to grow, develop, and advance, to become a superpower or to become the best in the world, must not neglect quality early childhood development and opportunities of its citizens. Thank you.
And convener of the Speaking Fingers Network. Speaking Fingers Network. Some of the time when you see the presenter or radio producer, announcing something, you see somebody doing like this. Those are the, so there is somebody here today to present a paper to us. It's a guest speaker, Leave No Child Behind, a multi-sectoral approach to building back better. So I have the pleasure of calling up Treasure Ucheru, convener, CEO, the round of applause. And that is why she's now waving her hand for you to know that at least when you are waving your hand, you are possible. So thank you very much. You are welcome. I don't know if you want to use this. A round of applause.
For us, this is how we have for our deaf community because we have them around and other people living with disability. I want to sincerely appreciate ACEP. I want mine to be very participatory because our children here also have something to deliver the general public in leaving no child behind. It's our gift to ACEP, and we trust that we begin to raise the next set of ACEP practitioners, mobile practitioners in our field. So once again, I thank you. Next slide, please. I want to thank you. So the idea is just to give, at the end of the day, to give us an overview. So once again, I thank even those online. I celebrate and appreciate you all. Please celebrate yourself. I say Happy Children's Day. Can we say Happy Children's Day? Let's have Happy Children's Day together. Come on this way, everyone this way, and let's have Happy Children's Day together. So 1, 2, this is children. So let's go. Happy, this is happy. At the end, we are going to do, we are HFPY. So let's go. Happy Children's Day. One more time. Happy Children. You like this is children. Children's Day. So I'm very grateful for this opportunity. And I thank every one of you for making it here. And I know that those that are on this platform today, you are ambassadors. You have been selected among the other children in the school. So what it means is that you are going back to your school to go and share all the beautiful things that we have shared today. Next slide, please. So we agree that the COVID pandemic has dealt with our world. Now we have the third phase of the COVID, the third wave of the COVID. What does it mean? It affects everyone, but most importantly, our persons with disability who are most vulnerable. Next. So who is a person with disability? A person with a disability or a child with a disability is one, according to the United Nations Convention on the Person with Disability, which we call the Disability Bible. At the end is one with physical, mental, intellectual, or sensory impairment, which is in interaction with various barriers will hinder their full effective participation in the society. What I want to bring to you is a huge paradigm shift. I want to let you know that the issue of disability has been evolving. We started by anybody with a disability, either we want to profile a particular ear drop, eye drop, or we want to take the person to the hospital, or we want to give the person money, or we want to actually do what we see them as beggars. We say they are invited and our building structures are not accessible for that particular child with a disability. And what does that do? If we continue to have this kind of mindset, the truth is that our world will not develop. The United Nations says leave no more. So disability is not all about giving charity. Medical, all they need is medical. That child, there is so much. There's a child there when the mother bleeds and she bleeds, the child smiles. It's a skill that child has. Next slide. So at the end of the day, what does that mean? We are embracing the social aspect as I think, and that they are embracing the social inclusion model, which is the human rights model of disability, the one that says everybody is included. Can we all say everybody is included? Every child matters a lot. Every child is included. Next. Every child is included. and I'm talking. Will the person hear me? Will the person hear me? But if we provide what can we provide to make the dead person hear? Okay, then if you watch our video and you provide subtitles, do you see those videos? You see children, you watch videos. What's your favorite video? The people want to share their favorite video. Their favorite movie. You like very well. Which cartoon do you like? Emmanuel, you like Emmanuel? You almost want to look like Emmanuel. So you like Emmanuel. So if Emmanuel is doing a comedy and there's subtitling, it means that every child, including our deaf child, can also be able to watch and also laugh. Can everybody laugh like Emmanuel? Next. So we now go and say there is productivity. What do I say? There is productivity. Because we are trying all the barrier. If a person with a wheelchair wants to come in, we are providing ramp. What did I call it? Ramp. I want you to go back as ambassadors. That's ambassador from ACEP. We are providing what? Ramp. Look at that boy who had his hand was amputated and they provided prosthesis. Now he has an arm that he also looks like everybody and he can use that arm to function. So at the end of the day, who are persons with disability in Nigeria? We recognize clusters of disability. How many people? Clusters. That are persons that are hearing impaired, persons that are blind, but what it means is that we recognize them as persons, and everybody say persons first. Persons first and not their disability. So what are the different barriers to this disability? We have different barriers. One of the barriers that is cancerous is the attitudinal barriers, how people treat them. We usually say deaf man. And we usually say deaf man. You will not use that word wrong. That is dead. And if you is dead, not strong. Can we say dead, not strong? Dead, not strong. Please next slide. Time for question and answer. So to access and all the partners and everyone that is included here, we want to let us know that inclusion is not a privilege for some few people. It is a right for everyone. Because the statute says if everyone is included, everyone wins. So once again, I said, there's no. We want to learn sign language here so that if you will be signing on to be I want to learn sign language. So that's why I'm doing this so that we can have that practical time where our deaf children on board will teach you sign. So we have this disability issues. It's not just because ACEP likes children. They are numerous. What did I say? Nigeria has a disability law. Nigeria has what? And Lagos State has also the special people's law. What did I call it? Special people's law. And that law came into being since 2011. 2011, that is the Lagos State Special People's Law. Can we say that? Lagos State Special People's Law. Who wants to be a lawyer here? We see plenty lawyers. Please, let's go for that lawyers. In everybody, celebrate all our lawyers. So there's law. So that their laws, their level from framework, next week. What is the SDG? Who has heard of the SDG before? Now, SDG means Sustainable Development Goal. Can we say that? Sustainable Development Goal. How many of them? There are 17. So let's say SDG and we kick our leg. SDG. So SDG means Sustainable Development Goal. There are 17 of them, and 5 of them is disability focused. Next slide. What does that mean? Nigeria has embraced these laws The first, you see, some matters a lot. You see that boy, he was not using. He was what is he using? Is his slippers, so you know he used it as a camera, and did you see all of them? They pose. Did you see they pose? They pose because they thought he was being what? He was doing selfie camera. He was doing selfie with them, Abi. So we want to have a different mindset. Do we agree? So let's look at the things that will help us have a different mindset. To do that, the first thing we want to everyone. And we also say that respect everyone. So don't see that dead child or don't see that particular black child and think that he is different from you. He is also a person. He is also what? A person. So the next one is universal access. When we are going somewhere, we must make sure that for us as teachers, we must get access. This training was for teachers, for caregivers. For us as teachers, we have to teach in a way that the child will understand. Look at the song we sang the other time. We play, we clap, we dance, and the song never left us. Are we together? So teachers, we must teach in a way that the child will understand. If the child is sang that way, please provide next, please. So the next thing we also have to do is advocacy. Is that the next one? Okay, now this is reasonable accommodation. Don't say everything is for everyone. We have children living with intellectual. We have children that are deaf. Provide what that child needs. Give the child what the child needs. Look at you. You see, that one that is called. He can look at the field by himself. The other one needs you to add this step. The other one needs you to create other ones. Yes. So these principles then build quality relationships. That's the reason why we're all here as ACEP. We decided to create relationships. Next, please. So we decided to create, and the disability community says nothing without us. What did I say? Nothing for us without us. So in order not to continue now, I will have our deaf students come and teach us how to sign. Who wants to learn how to sign? Yeah, shake your hands and come. So can we please invite everyone, celebrate? Let's invite everyone around. Please celebrate and favor who also doubles up to school things and bring. Please let's celebrate them. They want to teach us how to sign the alphabet. Where is your finger? See your hands. How many letters of the alphabet do we have? Are you sure? You know that. So the first letter of the alphabet is letter A. So you go there. So that they will see us. So this is letter A. Hold your hand like ever like this. Everybody that will hand on shall we go. This is letter A. Raise your letter A hand. Letter A. So A, everybody. Let's put letter B. Tell your name. This is B. The next one is what? So Trevor and Zoe, so that they know. Go in and help them sign it well. Yes, go in and see that they are signing it well. So see that they are signing it. See is done. See is done like this. See, can we go? This is letter D. D. This is D. Whose name is D here now? D. This is E. E is like your E hand. And this is F. F, you see F. Can we see your F? G is for what? Gun. Can we shoot our gun? G is for gun. H is double barrel. H is double. Where's your pinky finger? That is letter I. Use your letter I to get J. And open your index finger and your middle finger and put your thumb. That's letter K. Can we see letter K? K. So let's do A to K. Everyone. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. That's your J. That's your J. Where you do your J? J. Let's do J. J. minutes to find out. And also, so let's have our end, put it on top, and let it be end. Our role model, please come round and help. Come round help. We want this to be do this and close it. Close it. That is end. What is your end? This is end. O is your O. So let's start with end again. I put it with end. Let me see. I love your end. Tutu. End. Put it like that, that's B. B, we did it because I want to sing a song as this is B. You, pick a cube of sugar. Can't see your mouth, freeze. Let me see your mouth. What do you call it? Freeze. Can't see. We are going towards the house. This is very important. I love your team. Now, team, if you shake it like this, that is telling your child you won't go to the toilet. Let's shake it. What's this? What do you want? Let's actually, toilet. Now, this is you. This is B. Where's W? W. And where's X? As no. This is X. This is Y. Y. And let's use our index finger to draw Z. Z. Don't worry, I will send the alphabet card to your school. And would you like that? Would you like that? Yes. Now we are going to learn the song and we close it. The greatest part that every child should be brought on board, no child should be left behind. So let's press happy everyone. A, B, B. When you have your letter, just move to the right. Move your hand to the right. So let's go. A, B, B, Y. See why? And when you start like this, I love you, you start that way. Don't worry, you start like I, L, and Y. So that's I love you. So let's find happy again.
Another round of applause. I believe we have done something now. You have done A to Z. So I believe all of us can anyone have done? You. So it is well with you. Thank you very much, our CEO here. Thank you very much. It is well with you. Now, We are trying to see if we can link up with the Commissioner of Education in Lagos State. This is a financial design. We are expecting her to give us something on promoting children development in a secure environment. To promote children development in a secure environment. We have seen so many things happening to our schools these days. In those days, where there are schools, thieves and robbers don't go there. But these days, they don't know what is actually happening. That they have now made schools a target. So that is the more reason why that topic was given to the Commissioner of Education. But we are still trying to move up with that if she is on, we let you know. But while we are still waiting for the Honorable Commissioner, the next topic on the agenda is a good message from Global Director, National Association for Education of Young Children, USA, Stephanie or more, 7 years or more. So if we are able to make up with that, because it's the time in America, so we want to see if she's able to join us. Now, March 4th, Director Expo, eZ-Xpo, Mr. Okay, can you say something on that? eZ-Xpo? Oh, yeah, thank you. Okay. So I think we will keep listening to my folks, the director of eZ-Xpo, virtual collaborative network as part of the global response to education in Nigeria. So we believe that at least they be able to tell us that having a ship on the ICEP is not the best, but putting the ship, it is there and then that.
Well, thank you for inviting me to be part of your virtual conference, and thank you. It's my honor to be part of your virtual conference for this special International Children's Day and Virtual Exhibition Day. And my name is Matt Falk, and I'm the founder and CEO of eZ-Xpo. I want to share with you our story and also our vision on how we can help every stakeholder to prosper and also create more jobs and opportunities. Now, what's happening here is that with the COVID, many companies has moved on to a digital transformation, meaning that we can provide both in-person, virtual, and evergreen 365 days on demand, and that has been our premise many years before the COVID. So this is absolutely happening. It's just amazing. Now, this is the newspaper article that actually provided the what's happening is that this whole COVID is like a time machine, pushing people from 2030 to now 2020. So this has been an amazing experience for us, and actually that we actually seen our dream actually come true. That this is a part of our vision to help empower every company and organization. Now we see a huge opportunities with the COVID now, with the virtual event market size from $94 billion to over almost $800 billion in the next 10 years. And our proven product strategy is based on three core business strategy that has been proven, like the Office 365, that we have a virtual expo training job fair, Netflix model for entertainment, but we have the online courses, seminars, virtual conference, and workshop, pretty much providing the glue for engagement and fresh content, live and on demand. And obviously, lastly, is the LinkedIn. We have the business networking, providing the engagement both live and on demand through live chat and video chats and so forth. Now, this is our core focus in terms of activities. We see that 99% of organizations use all these applications: virtual expo, virtual summit, virtual conference, training, job fair, and also the contest for fundraising. Now, we have a brief short video tutorial from Envision Center, kind of walk you through how they actually use our platform to empower all the stakeholders across all government agencies within the United States. Now, this is our vision for Envision Center, where they can actually create what you call virtual collaborative network in multiple locations and be able to extend it out to every local, regional, national level. And in Nigeria, Lagos, you can actually do the same with a lot more potential, because you have a lot of stakeholders that you can actually be able to connect with many other associations and go beyond. So this is just sort of a market opportunity. So what I like to do is share a short video with you on Invention Center, how they actually use our technologies, and then we can close. We are really excited to be part of this exciting journey. We look forward to working with everyone.
If you can still see my screen, get off of PayPal. If you can see my screen, you can see the portal. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So this is the Envision Center Kansas City, Kansas portal. This is the Envision Center Kansas City, Missouri portal. This is our virtual portal for our learning. And then this is the Encounter portal, which are for organizations that provide services on a region metro-wide. They provide resources to who would be the Envision Center partners. So we kind of stair-stepped it. So I'll go ahead and log in to the Envision Center Wyandotte County portal. We have networked these together. So I know some people were saying, well, let's take a look at a live use, and that's what I'll do. So once I've logged, and I'm logging in as a client right now. So once I'm logged in as a client, I've got access to all of my portals. I'll start with the Envision Center Kansas City, Missouri portal. And once you go into the lobby, you can see here we have a virtual network event that we have. And so we could actually click on that event, and it would take us to the lobby. Envision Centers, the federal agency partners for the Envision Centers, U.S. Department of Commerce, U.S. Department of Labor, U.S. Department of Education, EPA, they are all providing content and resources to the Envision Centers and webinars and so this is a webinar that they had on USDA and some rule changes dealing with SNAP. It was a live conference that we showed here in the theater, but then we also have archived it so that our partners could come in and see it as they need to. So if I go to the exhibit hall, you'll see there are a few partners. This is still under development. We're just now getting partners. We have a meeting next Friday with the partners to start onboarding them. But you can see we have a workforce development partner that's already set up their portal. We have information on HUD Section 3, strategic workforce development, Wealthy Life, which is a financial literacy. And I believe Wealthy Life actually, if I click on her link, she actually has written a book called History of the Black Dollar. And she has her link to her books that are available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. She has access to her game, literacy game that she created, Credit Stacker. So it's really a really cool program. But what I'll do is I'll take you over to our education portal. And in our education portal, this, again, we're in our lobby now. You can see that we have a group out of North Carolina, Redbird, flight simulators that are actually teaching airlines, right? I mean, teaching how to fly a plane, the basics of how to fly a plane. And so if I click on this, you can see there's his lesson on airplane system basics. And then there's archived lessons of the ones previous before. I go into our exhibit hall, and of course you'll see there are more here. So we have some free K through 12. We have free K through 12 lessons that are available. If I go down to the bottom and I hit the exhibitor list, it'll populate every exhibitor that we have in here, and I can click on that and actually click on that link, and I'm actually now inside the booth. So this is the booth that we have for math, third grade math bundle. I click on the third grade math bundle, hoping you can still see my screen. And what we've done is we've taken third grade math, mapped it to Common Core standards, and basically gave parents now or teachers, so we wanted to give them a roadmap. So we put 9 weeks worth of lessons, some extended learning, and basically said when your child starts the third grade, they need to go through this process to understand these concepts to build upon their algebraic thinking and understanding of unit fractions to move on to the fourth grade. You click on a lesson. The lessons are interactive. They operate in real time. I'll use Matt as my guinea pig. I'll put Matt in, it join, and then it's a full lesson plan. So this is actually being used by schools. Teachers are using this because the lesson plan is already built up. These lessons can be taught in self-paced for a student or a parent or a sibling, or it can be taught as a live session. They have full videos loaded.
So we picking out the cups, you know what I'm saying, out the garden. We're going to sell them in front of the house. See how many pills.
And the good thing about this is, you see, we haven't lost any functionality. Everything is still interactive. The number 52 has a 5 in the tens place. So we've got total functionality of where everything is. We have virtual. I'm using a new computer. We have the VR element in these classes as well. So they can use the virtual reality here, and it also goes with the virtual reality glasses that they have. Again, this is not enabled for collaboration, but the teacher could enable it for collaboration. And again, we've lost no functionality. So I can actually do the lessons, take the quiz, hit submit anyway. And so that's just one way that we're using this platform. And by the way, when you saw the classes, the classes that I showed, that was the back door of our website. So this is not facing the public, but you can see that all of this is actually the back inside of our website. So we've actually incorporated it into our website. So let me see, exhibit hall, code combat, again, video. The students actually go in here and they can actually take their code combat classes. Redbird simulator. We have a Arduino lab in here, so they can actually, the inventor kits and the sensors that they have, they can come in here into the lab and simulate them first, log in. So this is the back end of their learning management system. So we've actually configured this in a way. I'll go to the Redbird simulator. Redbird, these are all the classes. Let me see. These are all the classes that are listed. Week 7 doesn't look like they've updated them all the way. But also, to just show you, there's an online simulator. Again, you don't lose any functionality, and you're able to do MMO with this. And so this is the flight simulator. They can pick their plane, and they can fly.
Oh, that's cool.
So they take the classes, and then they can fly. Auditorium, Matt showed you the auditorium. We'll stream live. Open it up here, have a concierge. If there's a live event being held, you have a concierge that can greet everybody, answer questions, interact with them, introduce the speaker. The lounge, of course, you can see that we have it connected to our Twitter. One of our parents from the summer camp yesterday posted about her daughter taking our summer camp, about how happy she was with the camp and what is going on. So it's a really powerful platform. It's very simple to use, and you can actually build it out and make it be what you want it to be and do what you want it to do. So with that, I will pause, stop my share. And
well, let me thank Williams for all these great works, connecting all the dots here. If you can share the screen on your network once again, really to show everyone that what eZ-Xpo is for and how we are uniquely different from everyone else. It's all about connecting all stakeholders, whether by city or by country or by any organization. This is how we are uniquely different from everyone else. And Envision Center Network is really a great example for that, because like I mentioned in my slide deck earlier, you can take the same framework and apply it to your industry, whether it's cannabis, whether it's for Chamber of Commerce, whether it's for urban farming, any industries. So we actually working with blockchain, AI, more and more. So this is really the critical framework, and I call the Netflix model for trade show and conferences, and that's